So like that's why I wanted to start on the Queen's Dragoon Guard.
Dragoon Guards.
Dragoon Guards.
Queen's Dragoon Guards.
Tell me about it.
Queen's Dragoon Guards. So they're basically the Welsh cavalry. That's what kind of we would use the name. Queen sounds a bit British. But yeah, QDG for short. So joined them when I was about 18. Signed up when I was 17. Didn't tell my mum. Just went down. It's like, fuck this. I was a forklift driver at the time. And I was like, need to do something with my life. I can't keep breaking stuff in the warehouse. So I kept seeing the images of Iraq and Afghanistan on Sky News. Granddad always used to watch Sky News, and I'd be there at night, like watching the night vision shit going on. I was like, that looks amazing. And I always wanted to be a soldier anyway. So 17, had nothing really going on in life. Was kind of going to go one way or the other. So it was just like, get down to the recruitment office, sign up. Give me a Welsh regiment. I want to be with Welsh lads. So it was either Welsh Guards or QDG.
What year were you actually deployed to Iraq?
2009.
And we were talking a bit beforehand, and you were showing us some of the videos of you in the bunkers, like. And you'd mentioned though, like this was something me and Dan were talking about. Like it was, you probably had that moment of realization, like, oh Jesus, I'm actually going into a war zone. But you said for the majority of the time, it was actually good crack,
fun.
Yeah,
yeah. It was. Well, when you're young, you're a lot more obviously naive about things. But no, it was everything I wanted to do as a soldier. Like I didn't want to join the military and never see combat. Like it's almost like when I joined, I just missed the Iraq tour, and then I had to wait 3 years before I could go to Afghanistan. And it's not embarrassing, but it's just like you're not. It's like being a virgin. It's like it's like I just want to do it. I want to get it over with. I want to go and experience it and put all that training to the test, because it literally, it's like for powerlifters, it's like doing a 3-year training cycle and then testing yourself. It's the being a soldier and getting deployed is exactly the same, except for it's like way more intense and obviously a lot more on the line. So at that point, I was definitely way more mature as a person. I was kind of a senior trooper, which is like private. So a couple of younger lads kind of looked up to you and stuff. So actually came at the right time. And it was like looking back now, it was obviously there's loads of lows, but like I would definitely go back and do it all again.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that's ever described being to war as good crack, like good fun. And then you were telling us the story about your wagon getting blown up.
Yeah, so I got blown up twice. I was the first, when we got deployed, I don't know if you remember, but Ross Kemp went to Afghanistan and it was called the Forgotten War at the time, because why the fuck are we fighting them anyway? People just forgot about it in the UK anyway. So Ross Kemp went over. He did a documentary, but he couldn't go to Musakala where we were because I think it was too dangerous. So he didn't have enough time, whatever. So he went back out for the second time, and my first operation was with Ross Kemp. He was with the Scots, and we were just we were kind of easing into the role, whatever we were doing, and. I got blown up like within 2 weeks of being out there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is great. But no, it's class.
No, you have to tell the story now on air about your wagon getting blown up in the gully and you putting the dagger under there.
Yeah. So that was the first time I got blown up. And the second time we were at QRF, which is Quick Reaction Force. So we were just like on standby, and the Gurkha regiment were out. He got in a firefight, and one of them got a finger or something shot off. So we went out to kind of, go and rescue them, cavalry and all that shit. We gone through a wadi bed and drove over another IED. It's a big firefight going on each side. So I was like, right, someone's got to go out back and clear a pathway, get us out. So I was like, right, fuck it, I'll do it. Because, just liked getting out the van, getting a stretch, and went out, got the little metal detector thing. It's like, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So there's obviously rounds going over our heads, but like at that, you're used to it at that point. So it's like typical, right? There's a fucking IED right here. So get down, get the dagger out, and you put your dagger in at an angle to, so you don't want to like go on top and set it off. So you just put the dagger in at an angle. I was like, ting. It's like, excellent. But as I literally went and touched it, like a massive bomb went off about 300 meters away, and literally just dropped everything and like ran like a little kid back into the wagon. All the boys are like pissing themselves, like, dickhead and all this. But you kind of just it just becomes a big joke in many ways,
Do you think you were like desensitized to like all the actual firefighting going on around you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because every day it's like you're just used to it. It's just something. Even if you're not like, obviously you're not in firefights every day. That's that's not happening. But there's always like a bomb going off somewhere, or you hear it. You're just like, oh yeah, grand. You don't even like, it doesn't even register,
What was your longest tour?
So I did one tour, and that was 7 months in Afghan.
Right.
So I missed the first one. I literally joined the regiment while they were in Iraq. That was my own fault. I was up in court for driving offences and stuff. So,
no, with the way you drive, I couldn't see that being true.
Oh, that's a whole other story. So I got delayed joining. And then when I did get there, I missed the Iraq tour, which was gutted because I would have gotten another medal. But so I did one tour at the end. I was in 3 years, and then I did my tour 7 months. It was about 7 months, and then I basically had to stay or leave at that point. So put in my resignation and moved to Dublin 6 months after that.
So what was it like? Like you mentioned a little bit just before we kicked off recording, like coming home, your perspective was obviously a bit changed from before you left.
Yeah. No, I was like, I didn't suffer with PTSD and all that stuff. I don't think I did.
But I suppose it lends a bit of levity to, like, there's probably much bigger problems than, as you said.
Oh yeah.
Run out of milk, spare clothes at 10.
Everything just, for the first while. So it's actually weird. I went over for like 8 weeks, and my R&R was really early. So after 8 weeks, I had to come back, and that was horrible. I felt so guilty coming back and leaving everyone. I was upset. Like, I got in a fight with a group of guys, got arrested. It was a mess, and that was purely just because I felt guilty and I didn't really want to come back. Yeah. It was just weird. So weird, because there was no, on R&R, there's like no decompression training or time. It was just like 1 minute you're like doing mad shit, and then, I was out in the piss in Cardiff on St. Mary Street. So that was a bit of a head fuck. But like everything, for a while, everything's just like, you're just grateful for stuff. Like, I'm thirsty, I'm going to go down and get a drink from the spa. Like, whereas when you're isolated, like you're like hoping that on the next chopper run that like you've got a care package. My granddad, as the way he set up like these care packages for all the troops. So I used to get like 2 bags of care packages, like shoe boxes, and dish them out to all the lads. So, in fairness, I was well stocked.
Yeah.
Looked after my friends and stuff. Used to trade like cereals and chocolate bars and stuff. But, it'd soon run out. And then little things like that, just getting a McDonald's or having something different to eat, like a steak, all that is gone. Just being able to like ring someone or go on the internet, all that stuff is just gone.
Yeah. You were telling Vinny and me yesterday, it was like every once in a while, like every couple of weeks or months, you might get access to Facebook just to go, yeah, I'm still alive.
Yeah. So like Facebook there was no Instagram or anything back then. It was like Facebook. We'd go back to like one of the bases every few weeks to kind of replan and go on Facebook. Obviously, I kept in contact with my wife back then on satellite phones and stuff, but and letters, but like all my friends and stuff, you know, I'd go on, I'd chat to everyone for about an hour. But that was probably the best thing, is like you had no distractions in life. Your sole purpose as a human was to carry out tasks that you train for like 3.5 years, whatever. It was just like, there's no distractions. There's no, I got to do this next week. It's like, all you had to do was like keep yourself fit, healthy, keep all your weapons clean, your shit in order. And then whatever you were doing that day, you know, that was your complete life focus. So it was stressful, but it was also really amazing. You know, just like, you know, laying there at night, just looking up to the sky, just like seeing all the stars because you're in the desert and stuff. It's just like makes life simple, you know. It's very like caveman-y. You know, you just, all you got to do is like stay alive, do your work, look after the lads around you. They're going to look after you. Repeat. So then when you go back to the bullshit world where it's like, you know, Facebook was real popular, getting likes and, you know, looking good for a Friday night out or...
My Wi-Fi is slow,
Yeah, it's just kind of like, this is shit.
Yeah.
So it was hard to adjust back to like normal society. But that's because it was, you know, life is just like so simple and fucking focused.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We're like, because of how advanced things have gotten, we're quite insulated, and sometimes we forget that like actually fighting for survival is
what we're
built to do.
Yeah.
I think that's like people like manufacture a lot of their own problems now because they are so safe and insulated that they have the free space to do it. But you mentioned your granddad was sending you all these care packages. Obviously, that probably made you quite popular with a lot of lads. But you were mentioning them beforehand. You had the Yorkies that you would throw to the kids so they wouldn't jump out into the alleyways. I assume that's where you got them.
No, they were actually in the rations and they were rotten. They were like stale Yorkies. So I used to collect them off all the lads, and just because I would be on top cover. So I'd have about 40 Yorkie bars. I'd just throw them out to the kids, man, and like they'd be running through they'd hear the wagons, and the kids be running through these fields, like just to get stale Yorkies and bottles of water, you know. So we had to stop. Actually, we were told to stop doing it after a while because obviously, if they're running towards you and you get into a firefight, they're gonna get caught in the crossfire. But it's like, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
fucking stale Yorkie bars, like, but.
Whole other part of the world, it's a whole different thing. I suppose we don't really know in the West, like, you know.
No, we got it good.
Then where did the blueies come from? Not those blueies.
Yeah. Didn't get to use those blueies. So these are like letters, and they're blue pieces of paper they got like prepaid stamps. So when you just write to your family and stuff, and they were called blueies, and that was nice. It was almost like therapy because you get to like write stuff down. Do you know, I'll actually show you one. My cousin found one the other day, and it's like, he sent it to me, and it was kind of cool reading back. He actually, I don't know, something nice about writing a letter to someone. No one does it anymore. So you know, once a week I'd write to my partner back then, and maybe, you know, to my granddad or cousin or something, you know. But you'd see a bluey in the post.
Yeah, something to look forward to for them as well.
Yeah, and you get, you know, even getting them back. I used to love getting letters back because I just think it's a bit more personal, you know. You can kind of, when you're sitting down and writing it, you're probably in a emotional state where you're kind of a little bit more open, you know, whereas these days when you take a call, you're like, oh, what do you want? You know, so.
You have to consider a lot more what you wanted to tell them, because I suppose that as well, it's like a conversation happen over weeks at a time. But I liked when you told the story, because that cool idea, like, you know, oh, you got a bluey in the post, you know, or you had one coming back. I think that's deadly. But like, so you rolled on from there. What made you decide when you got home, you went through your period of like reacclimatizing to the real world, or whatever you want to call it, the bullshit world? Why did you decide to move to Dublin?
So I met my girlfriend, met her out one night in Cardiff. I was actually on, I just finished my tour. So I was out on a mad one with my friends. Met her one night, met her the next night. It's like, lads, I'm out. I'm moving to Dublin. They were like, please don't. I was like, nah. I was just getting promoted. I was like, nah, I think I'm going to move to Dublin. And that Monday, a week later, handed in my notice. Basically, it was like 6 months notice. I was like, yeah, fuck, I'm out. See you later.
So you just followed a girl back.
Pretty much.
Fair enough.
What a lad thing to do. Yeah.
Following your Mickey.
Yeah.
So how did you get from like moving to Ireland, moving to Dublin, and then starting to get like abs becoming a thing?
So it was a bit naive. Like I've always just found something to do. Whether I've always just, I can't just sit at home and like be like waiting for a job to come. So I was like, right, I'm going to move to Dublin. I'm just going to join the Irish Defence Force. The money, that'll do. Moved, realised like, okay, there's no jobs. It was just after the Celtic Tiger.
Yeah. So you're in the middle of a recession now, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like pretty much given all my money to my ex-wife. So I was like, great. So I started Janet's, that's my partner, her cousins actually, because I was doing fitness training in the military. So they were like, oh, would you just bring us out to the park and do some boot campy stuff? Boot camp was all the rage, but I was like, yeah, $5 a head, lovely. So that's how I actually started getting into the fitness side of things in Dublin. We were down in Poppintree Park in Ballymun. They used to bring a few kettlebells and I just smash them around for 45 minutes. But then I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. Like, getting, it's kind of similar to what I was doing back in Germany. So then I just started emailing places. I emailed Temple Bar, Abs, got onto Bryan Kavanagh, made a complete bullshit CV up, said I was this, that, and complete lies.
He obviously knows this now, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, he still has it. Like, still has it. He always brings it up. Basically, at that point, I was training a couple of people from Aer Lingus and they were paying me in 1-for-all vouchers. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm training all these people in Aer Lingus. I'm going to bring all these clients. Literally not at all. Got like a trial there. I was paying my rent with whatever money I had and then living off the 1-for-all vouchers. I didn't want to tell Cavo at the time because it was like, he's going to just like sack me off. And then I did a 1-for-all. Oh no, was it 1-for-all? Yeah, like a Groupon training thing.
Yeah.
Trained like 100 people for free. Got like 7 or 8 to sign up. And then that was kind of me established then as a PT in the gym. Lynn was one of them.
That's right, yeah.
People.
One of the OGs.
She's literally the oldest Abs member.
So that's Abs at first was like, it's Bryan Kavanagh's business. He's running like personal training studios. Yeah. And then he ended up opening one then in Glasnevin on the Ballyboggin Road. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then if I'm not mistaken, you started like a Sunday powerlifting training. Is that right?
Yeah. So at that point I was PTing for about 2 years, something like that. I was I was full. PT was making good money. Then I got into powerlifting and I was like, yeah, that's all I want to do is just teach people how to get stronger. I loved having the competitive edge back. I was competing. I wasn't that great, but like going through the process with people to then compete against other people, really enjoyed that. And so we started a little group on a Sunday because that was everyone's day off, 9 o'clock, get it done, go out with the family. And just, got the bug.
It became something way bigger than I assume you even thought it could be at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was a big West Side head at the time. I was still at,
I remember I've seen the old like pictures of the gym and like there was like all the chains and things like that, but you could see the boards in the back, like there was all the things about conjugate and all. I remember a lot of the older members and like some of them are still around, like Noel Whelan, Louise Kenna, Barry Piggott, Hazel Hu. You had like these like people that have become like these like mainstays in powerlifting or like really, really big names. Like their legacy still is talked about to this day. But I know everybody listening is going to want to know, what were your numbers?
So the best I ever did was 272 squat, 275 in comp deadlift, and 160 bench. But I did do 160.5 cold because me and Joe the beard, I always used to have a bigger bench, and Joe was like, I'm going to get you one day. I was like, nah. And then he did 160. So I just literally, I walked in as he was doing it. I was like, fuck. So I got the chips, put them on, benched it cold.
Yeah.
And then I've never been able to bench since. So
that's like, there was a joke for a while that like everyone would know when you were starting to get interested in training again, because you'd just be doing incline dumbbells.
Yeah.
And then like a bit of like arms or something. Like, it was like this joke for a while. You did jump back in on training like last year for a little while. You were squatting with Louis.
Yeah.
That
Don't know why, I just got bored.
You squatted like 250 or 255 or something, like easy enough.
Yeah.
Still in there.
Yeah, it's just no desire to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're doing fair enough. Like, you've got coaching and promoting now, but like looking back then, so ABS, it was the 9 a.m. crew on a Sunday. Yeah. How did it go from that to becoming like a full blown powerlifting club?
I can't even remember. Like, there wasn't like a certain thing that happened. It was just the group kept getting bigger, and then it turned into like. No, I was also lucky. I caught powerlifting right at the start of the wave.
Yeah, because there was very little powerlifting scene here.
There was none. And CrossFit was a big factor in that. So obviously you get luck with everything. So I got a bit of luck with that. And then I was just, I wasn't just upskilling my coaching skills. I was going to marketing seminars. I was doing everything. I learned to build my own websites and stuff. So I was trying to like build a business as well. So, I did a lot of marketing. I was like, the 9 a.m. became bigger. Then I was like, there's too many of us. We've literally fuck all kit. Then that became 11 a.m. as well, like a beginners group. And then I was like going out once a week in the week to train a bit because I was still PTing. That was my income. And then I was like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to PT anymore. Jacked it in. Just, went full time, started trying to do powerlifting club, and I've been broke ever since.
It's that we had an expression in pro wrestling. It's how do you end up with $1 million? It's start with 2 million.
Yeah, literally.
Same thing in powerlifting. It's like the most expensive hobby I think anyone's ever had. But in this period of time, as you mentioned, there wasn't really a massive powerlifting scene. And then, the prevalence of CrossFit, people were more interested in the gym. And I think it was that because CrossFit promotes all these different forms of fitness, there was people who did it that naturally gravitated towards like the barbell strength element. And they were probably like the early adopters of powerlifting in Ireland. So there was no Irish PF, if I'm correct, when you were first over here.
No.
So you were one of the people that helped bring it to fruition. I know you mentioned a couple of other names before we start recording, so tell me a little bit more about that history because I want to know.
Yeah, so 2012 I did my first comp, and 2013 I went to the IDFP single lifts in Cork, and there was about 8 girls at it and about 80 lifters. That was the biggest event ever. So there was only the IDFPA back then. So, and 4 of them girls were mine. So it was like, I was known as the girls coach. It's like, great. So yeah, and then it just snowballed. I said to the IDFPA then, I was like, I'd love to host a comp out of ABS. They were like, yeah, far away, straight on the marketing. Held some like 220 lifters over 2 days, 2 platforms, wow. First comp. So that was like, got like thrown in the deep end on that one. Yeah, and it just, ABS just blew up. And so did powerlifting. It was just comps. Like now with the Irish PF, like it's just the demand was there. Yeah.
There aren't enough meets for the amount of people that want to compete. Yeah, it's gotten huge.
Yeah, it was, but IDFP were having like 3 platform comps, and it was kind of fun. Like, yeah, they were a bit of a shit show because like even at the best of times, 2 platforms is mental, but there's no like Instagram. No one knew what others were lifting. The only time you'd speak to someone, it'd be like queuing up for the weigh-in. Oh, how's it going in? How's your training going? You're going to tell me your inflated numbers. Oh, yeah, I did 225, and you're like, oh, really? It's full of shit. And then like you might surprise someone, so it was kind of cool. Or there'd just be some random guy from the country who just comes out of nowhere and like does mad lifts. So it was definitely a different, it was completely different back then, where now it's like different. You know that this person's been smoking it in training. Can they do it on the platform? So it's definitely a lot different. But yeah, like I fell out with the IDFPA, surprise, in 2015 over at SBD, funny enough, and wouldn't let me have a stand because it conflicted with Vody or some bullshit like that. So I was like, fuck you then. Sean Ryan got onto me. He was the first president of the IPF, Irish PF. He's like, Jay, do you want to set up the IPF, start the IPF? And I was like, yeah, let's go. So, he did all the administration side of things. He was absolutely like, there wouldn't be an Irish PF without him. We did our first comp up north. I had 28 lifters. Barry Piggott was one, Hazel. It's basically all of abs and then a few of like custom strength, which was Sean Ryan's crew and one or two. James Hanley was there as well. And that was the first Irish PF comp. No equipment, no referees. We had to literally use NIPF referees. And at the time, the IDFPA were like big. They had, 700-800 members. They were like trying to bully us. And that was good. It like just kind of made me want to like do better, you know?
Well, I mean, look at where it is now. So the people that were there from the beginning, like yourself, Sean Ryan, as you mentioned, when did like the likes of like Rob Burke come along, or like up north to one of the more prominent female lifters was like Brona McPeak?
Yeah, Brona. Yeah. So she was kind of, I think she did the first comp as well. I definitely met Brona before that because we lifted up the NIPF as guest lifters. Rob was always involved in abs before the Irish PF. He was kind of going through, I think he was kind of like starting new jobs and stuff, but he was, we said, oh, look, I'd love to get involved. I think it was about 2 years in. He came in as maybe vice president. Oh no, he had some other committee role, but he was doing loads. And Rob came in and he organized the chaos. Yeah. So like he just he streamlined a lot of things, he did just was Rob.
Yeah.
And that was probably my funnest time as being involved with the IPF. That's not because of, it's not fun now, but it wasn't as big. It was just like me, Rob and Sean. Yeah, let's like our meetings took like 10 minutes. It was like 3 lads. What do you think of this? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Rob did his, Sean did his. I did the setting up stuff, and it was kind of.
Well, I mean, in the early days of anything, it's like probably didn't know exactly what to do, so everything was a new idea. Everything was like trying to suss things out. So it's that creative process that's great fun, particularly if you're in there with like-minded people. But then you became Ireland's head coach.
Yeah, so that was early on. So we were going to Texas, and I was like, I wanted that role. I'd say most of the lifters were, about half the lifters were abs, and Rob, Sean Ryan, I think James Hanley was TO then as well. So they kind of, voted me in, put me in coach, and I was like, that's it. I'm been doing it since.
Yeah. And I think that's the point. Like, I think anyone that's worked with you would say how well you do in the role as the head coach, because it's one of the things I think that's cool is like Ireland's a tiny little country, and there's all these different clubs, these different training modalities, but at the end of the day, we all come together to represent the country under this banner, and it always goes really well. If I'm not mistaken, there was like statistics printed late last year that Ireland has like the best attempt selection of any international team. Yeah,
so over the last 5 years, or could even be more, Ireland has the highest success percentage at international meets. So that's like, and that's all competitions. So even the ones that like myself and the other senior coaches wouldn't have been at, so that just shows that, we're a small nation, but we punch way above. We punch 2 weight classes above where.
Absolutely, that's something in the water,
It's good. Like when I first went to like Texas and stuff, we were like seen as a joke. I fucking used to eat me up.
The Jamaican bobsled team of powerlifting.
Literally, I remember getting kicked off the rack by is it Dr. Deadlift? Do you know the Polish guy, or Mr. Deadlift, whatever his name is? So, you know, anyway, I remember getting the first comp. We basically got kicked off the rack, and then Rory Girvin did his last warm up. I didn't have time to drop his opener because we got kicked off the rack. And I was like, fuck that. I'm never getting, you know, it was his first meet worlds. Like, I was like, fuck that. I'm never getting bullied like that again. And we were seen as just shit, you know, Ireland, just good at drinking, which we are. But now, like, people respect us, you know, even though we might not have the Russwall in every weight class. Like, people respect our coaching team. They love our team, because our team's the best, man. We're so close. Like, all the club bullshit goes aside. We're Team Ireland. Shout the loudest. We work together the best, and we're pretty good at calling numbers on the day and stuff.
110%. Like you said, the Irish PF and as a part of the IPF, it's only like 6, 7, maybe 8 years old at most. Mm-hmm. And then Ireland doesn't have anywhere like, it was less than 10% the population of a place like the United States. So if you consider how small the talent pool is for how good the lifter quality is, I think it's a testament to not only the athletes themselves, but the coaches as well for the team. Yeah. And then more recently, then you've been voted in as the Irish PF president, which is
how I do not know.
It's amazing.
This is kind of, Rob. I always liked being behind Rob because Rob is Rob. He's articulated. He's polished. He can put out a fire with words. Whereas I'm the opposite. I'll come behind him and pour petrol on it.
Inside a bit of fire.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from that. Yeah. I learned the hard way. And when Rob went, it was just after COVID, and I was 50-50 what to do. Obviously, the AB series was popular, but the Fed everyone left. Like, the whole EC went, half the committee went. So it was like, if I go, there's just no one to basically hand over. Because there is a lot of work in it that people don't see. So I always wanted to finish out as a president, just to say I did it and prove the haters and all that good stuff. But so this is my last year as president, and I'm looking forward to getting out, to going on to new stuff. But I'm really, really happy with the Fed. Is the people that involved now are really, really good.
I think that's a really great way to put it. Like, you had this like elected, and I know previously the council was like there, the committee was there for like 4 years, and they've sit. Last year it was changed to 2 years. But I think that's a good way to think of it. Like, because so many key players had left, because again, the stress of trying to do everything through COVID and all, I'd imagine played a part, that by you staying on, it wasn't all getting dumped on all these new people and all these new roles. So you're acting as the bridge between the old committee and the new committee. Yeah. And then, as you're saying, you're going to bow out then after the end of, when we get to the next election.
March,
So you have a few more months to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm enjoying it to a degree, Yeah. But I'm also excited to kind of
you're wearing a lot of hats. Like, you're running your own powerlifting club. You're coaching the Irish team. You're the IPF Irish PF president. But the big thing I'm sure most people are going to be interested in is you're the meet director for the ABS series. Yeah. So the ABS series started back in 2018 with the first ever ABS Pro, along with the SBD Cup. What was the motivation for the ABS series? Like, when did that idea start?
It was kind of, I'd say I went to a lot of the Irish Pro and Battle of the Boyne meets, and I really just enjoyed them. They were like mental, equipped lifters, big geared equipped lifters, nearly dying. They were good. Like, I liked the vibe,
the spectacle.
Yeah, it was like I used to just go down on my own and watch, because it was like, this is cool. Everyone used to be drinking after and stuff. And I was like, well, the gym is doing really well. What I didn't like, the only thing I didn't like was the standard of reffing. And that isn't a knock on them comps. It just wasn't as good as the IPF International. So I was like, well, I'll just do it. I'll just do when on my own. Like, as to say, if you do it better, if you got a problem. So I was like, I'll just do that. And it was just meant to be like a one-off meet. And then it was really fun. I was like, I think I've got a product here. I think this is like way more interesting than your typical open. And just kind of, I didn't have a plan. I just was like, I'll do it next year.
Yeah.
It got better. I was like, fuck.
It just evolved.
Everyone's like, you need to do this on a mono and this. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And I was like, got talked into it. Then that was it. It was just became the series.
Yeah.
And then it, like, you know, me, Noli, Joe the Beard, we'd be in Glasnevin like till midnight, like wiring lights. It was like having a giant train set. Like we just buy stupid stuff and be buying more lights, or, you know, that was kind of, it was like a hobby almost. And then I actually started doing, you know, not too bad financially. I started making money, which all goes back out now to more mad shit.
More flamethrowers.
Yeah, and it just kind of snowballed. There was no big plan. Whereas now, like, I can see it, you know, if I can keep directing it the right way and not mess up, I think it'll be big, you know?
Well, I mean, I think it is big.
Yeah.
Bigger. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like when you look back at, I think the unique thing about the first ever ABS Pro is that there hadn't really been a meet like it, where you had all these like IPF lifters and IPO lifters and all these like notorious characters from the scene competing on one platform to an incredibly high standard. Yeah. And I think as that, like, it wasn't affiliated with anybody else. It was just this like this spectacle, this thing people could come and watch, where it's like a cross, like DC and Marvel crossing over, you know, all the different lifters. And then it became, naturally, as you moved into 2019, it became the ABS series, which I competed at. I competed at the very first ABS series. That was my first meet.
The one with
Andy Carney. Yeah, that was my first ever one. I nearly died on my third squat because I was squatting in CrossFit knee sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was, well, I mean, I remember at the time, because this is the point, I'd actually come to some other meets. I actually went to a meet in ABS. They did the Leinster Open.
Oh, yeah.
In February 2019. Because Mark Stell was lifting. So I knew Mark through Flyfit at the time. And I remember thinking it was grand, but it was quite sterile.
Yeah.
You know, and I would point that finger at most opens in the world.
Yeah.
They're quite sterile, you know. It's just watching people on a road, like, you know, rotate in and out for lifts. And that's fair enough, because that's fundamentally what the sport is. But I remember the people I had come and watch me at the series, like, this fucking dead. He was a heavy metal band. You know what I mean? And there's like this giant Scottish dude. And then I competed at the ABS Cup then for the ABS Pro 2019. And there was it Leone breathing the fire?
Yeah.
And Gino?
Yeah.
And it was the spectacle, even then in those early days when it was just this early idea, small things like having the rack set up as like a tunnel between the back.
Yeah, no one was doing that.
These things really added another layer of spectacle to it.
Yeah.
And then I think anyone that saw any of the footage or pictures or the live stream from Clash of the Titans or Clash of Titans a couple of weeks ago, like, that was outrageous.
Yeah, that's probably my most fun comp in the new gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that leveled up a little bit.
Yeah. And
you know, looking now, I can see like 7 or 8 things that are going to make that even better, that we can improve on.
Was there ever a point in that, because I know like COVID hit everybody hard, was there ever a point where you thought like ABS or the series wasn't going to continue?
Yeah. So Battle de Munda, Jesse versus Jake, that was so fucking awesome. That just finished. The next comp was sold out within, you know, the website used to crash. Spent loads of money on like stupid shit, like all the trusts and stuff. I was like, cool, right? And then COVID kicked in, and like, yeah, things just were pretty shite. I was like, had to refund everyone. Landlord was still like charging us rent, even though we locked this out. And it just, that's the only time I've thought like, this is fucked. We're never going to get back to where it was. Didn't last long. But yeah, there was this point I was like, I've lost all the momentum. Like, people are not going to come back now. It's lost that, you know, that edge. But no, came back.
With a store, like 10 times more. I'd say. I think in many ways, for like COVID was shit, like, but I think for so many reasons, I actually think it was good for powerlifting because it was one of the few things people could train for that they didn't need a lot of equipment. So I'd say we've actually gotten some of our more reputable or known powerlifters now because they could only train powerlifting during COVID, you know, in their back garden with a wooden rack that you were selling, which, and I know you made a post about that recently. So at the early days of COVID, you were making these like wooden squat racks that could support at least 400 kilos.
Yeah, we did the test.
Yeah. And I know we keep one outside Abs now to remind you.
Yeah, it's right on the grass.
I've seen it, yeah.
In Victor Rack. So me and Joe were, we were out there like building them all day and night. And, you know, it was just to keep us occupied, but like keep people training. And then like me and Keane drove them all around the country in lockdown. We were down in Kerry, Galway, delivering these fucking racks to people
all over. Yeah. But people did genuinely get great use out of them. They were very good.
Yeah, I think they were. I think Lynn still uses
hers. Yeah.
Like Joe designed them. Like they're probably gonna like last forever. These Joe's like the amount of screws in them.
He built the media box, didn't he?
He built the media box, the pillars and stuff.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, the media box is the commentary booth. Myself and Alexander Clark sit in during the Abs series, the Abs Pro and Clash Titans. And Alex is probably, 130 kilos?
Yeah, Eamon's been up there as well.
Eamon's been up there. I'm about 95, 96. So there's like nearly 250 kilos of fat fucker sitting up in this media box above the platform. And it hasn't collapsed yet. So that's a sturdy ass piece of woodwork. So fair play to him. He's like one of those mainstays now. I think he's like a legend at the series. He was back spotting at the Clash, wasn't he? It was good to see him.
He's only ever missed one series. And that was because of family reasons. So
fair, yeah.
And even then, he was apologizing. I was like, Joe, fuck off, man. Like, you're all right.
Yeah. Like, I think that's a big thing about it with Abs. So there's like these people that it's not like as much as like the Ab series is your baby. It's this thing you've built. There's so many people that help facilitate it happen. You mentioned Noel Whelan. He did a lot of the lighting and wiring for you. Joe made basically the stage with help of yourself and all that, and is basically runs the most efficient platform I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
so there's all these people that have like even like that. You've got guys squatting 400 plus kilos. There has to be a massive amount of trust in your spotting and loading team for that to work.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky in Abs that we do have just really great core group of people.
That's one of the problems with upscaling, as in, you know, there's only one Joe, you know, or there's only like the people who are kind of fundamental to it, the Karens, the Joes, the Nolis, the Louises, yourself, and there's definitely more that I'm forgetting. There's only one of them, so it's like, how the fuck are you meant to like bring this all over Europe when you've got one of these people? So that's the biggest challenge. I could easily get 10 people to affiliate to and run it out their gyms and make loads of money and be, you know, working less and earning more, but it's not what it's about. So for me, it's finding the Joe, the beard in Austria or which I'm actually
Joe
doing.
Dasbeard.
Yeah, Joe Dasbeard, yeah. Which they're coming, like, you know, people are approaching me and like I just know the way they're talking that they're passionate. Because like, let's be real, we're involved in powerlifting because we're passionate about the sport for some reason. We're weirdos, so it's not about money. People have come to the series seeing like, fuck man, our sport is actually can be really cool, which it is, but it's like there's a genuine platform that makes it cool, and they want to get involved. So, you know, that's the biggest problem of like upscaling is finding them core people to
having the right people. And like that, it's even for me, like doing like the master ceremony stuff, the commentary stuff, this just came about. I know actually I was pestering you to commentate once or twice and you just let me do it at one, and you're like, yeah, right, he's good at that, we'll keep him doing that. Yeah, that's it. Like I don't think a lot of the time with these things, you're not like picking people for roles. It's people kind of demonstrate their interest, their passion, their value and their capability in the role, and they naturally come to that. Like look at like Mario and Motion Masters have become like an integral part of the series presentation. And at the beginning it was just, can I do
a video
of the platform and make a few packages, like, and it's like, yes.
Same with Stel, man, you know, like Stel and Mario are like how lucky am I to come across them two people at that particular time.
Such creative people.
Yeah.
So talented, yeah.
And, they've done, you can have the best product, but if you can't present it, then it's like not worth shit. So, like obviously luck is a part of it as well. Finding the right people and getting in at the right time. So yeah, that's, long term, it's just, I'd love to like have it like spread across Europe, but it's just finding the right people.
Yeah, a lot of it's happenstance. They just happen to be the right people in the right place at the right time, and the right series of questions and conversations have happened. I totally agree. It just is the way it tends to go. Like, for example, we cornered Amelia yesterday and asked her to be the athlete coordinator, and that might just become her job now.
I think she'd be great. Like,
of course, yeah. She'd let roar at them and they'd all do it. Like, 100%. But this is another thing. We more recently got this new big banner put up in ABS with the history of the series so far.
Yeah.
And I've seen it dozens of times, and it's only been up a couple of weeks, but people come in and they're just stopped staring and looking at it. Do you, as the person that's put this together, basically the person that's made it happen, let's be honest, do you have any moments that are like your favorite ABS series moment?
My favorite is 2018 at the ABS Pro when like obviously people tried to cancel me at the time, and a lot of people kind of jumped on that bandwagon. And then at the end, the meet was fantastic. It was so good. But then at the end, Gino was there. Gino was told not to come over and present at ABS because of me. He said, "Fuck you, I'm coming." Didn't know him that well at the time, but he kept his word. So he came out, he's like, obviously you can't see out the back, you can't really see the crowd. So it was the end of the meet. So I came out, Gino was like, round of applause to Jay Farrant. And the whole crowd just stood up and just started applauding. And like, that was cool. That was like...
You got a little bit emotional, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was like, I choked up. Yeah. Because, not because, just because at that time I'd lost quite a lot. Lost like my SPD gig, which was kind of my bread and butter. So I felt like the whole world was coming on top of me. And then like to see everyone out. There's people there, I thought that like, they don't like me, but they were still there and they appreciated what had happened. So that was definitely like number one. And then there's been so many good moments. They're all like, it usually is like a good moment, when Jake beat Jesse, that was amazing. Because Jesse was the man, like, Jake, that was his day. Obviously, Jesse's revenged that a few times. So yeah, it's like just so many good moments. It's like, I love it.
I completely agree. It's that. And I think the one thing the series does so much better than any other way I've really seen powerlifting presented is it's not just about what goes on the platform, it's who the athletes are.
Yeah.
So like Jesse Moore, and like what a character, like what a guy, like so articulate and well spoken, not afraid to throw shots, and that gets you bought into the meet.
100%.
Like I know Jesse has had some phenomenal days on the platform and he's had some less than phenomenal days, but he's always great to watch. He's such a phenomenal lifter.
And he shows up.
Yeah.
Shows up. But I've known Jesse for a while. Met him in IPO. Came out the back. He just broke the all-time Wilks or something. And he goes, was that squatting? Or something like that. I said, I wouldn't pass at ABS anyway. And he was like, what? Really? I was like, nope. I was like, fuck. And he went off. Next minute, he's like, he was in the crowd actually in 2018. And then next year, he was signed up. Like, so that tells you a bit about Jesse.
Yeah.
He not only wants to be the best, he's like hungry, he doesn't care. So, don't even know how we got into Jesse, but like
we're talking like the athletes that we present.
The athletes, yeah.
And the way they hold themselves like that. Like it would be very, and I know there are probably lifters out there that do this. They know, but particularly at the pro, having to walk out their squats if they're wearing wraps, have to pull on the Elika bar, the stiff bar, the Kabuki bar. These are challenges a lot of like, lifters that allege to have these great totals or great dots or great wilks or whatever, they kind of shy away from the challenge because maybe the standards are a bit too high for them, even though it is the correct standard. So the fact that you pointed it out, or he asked and said, like, was that squat in? You're like, nah, I wouldn't pass on abs. He just said, well, fuck that then. I'm going to come to abs and I'm going to do it.
And at the time, abs wasn't like what it is now, you know? IPO was, you know, that was probably a bigger platform back then. So, like, it's all about the athletes. I'd much rather, you know, and that's a big thing about who I kind of invite over as well, who I want to work with. I'd take Jesse Moran over John Hack, and I could swear down on that because just his investment in the, you know, in the series and stuff, you know, or Jake, same. I'd take them lads. I'd rather build something around, you know, Fernando's another one now, Luke Tom, all these lads. They're friends now, and they see the same thing, you know.
Can't forget the Italians, Filippo and all the boys from Italy.
Yeah, it's like, that's what I mean. It's like, it's a circuit. It's a giant family. Even the girls like Denise and Suzaska and stuff like that, you know, I talk to them pretty much every week. So yeah, I think the main thing is about athletes.
Yeah.
People, when you think of the series, you think of like the Rob Spence or the Jake, or you don't necessarily think about, first of all, you don't think about all the you know, the show as such. You think about the lifters first, which is how sport should be.
100%.
So
I think that's one thing we've definitely done better, as I said, than most other places. It's that. And I would ask, is some of that kind of like, I know you're a big fan of the UFC. Obviously, you're wearing the UFC jumper. You've become good friends with Johnny Walker. Is it some of that, like looking at the way they platform their athletes?
100%.
How they build their stories, show their training, give you the person behind their abilities, and it gets you more bought into the fight. Yeah.
I learned loads from being around the UFC and picking up their marketing strategies, and it's just like people buy into people, not products. So like, it's like water, you know, if someone you knew was drinking this water, you'd buy the brand, not because of the ingredients. You know, people are way more invested in people. But anyway,
100%. Like, I mean, look at we were talking about it recently. I was saying I went to the darts in the Tree Arena, and it's a load of fat drunk dudes throwing little spikes at a board on a wall, and the place had like thousands and thousands of people because of the presentation of the event itself. Like when the lads walk out, there's like cheerleaders up on the stage doing this choreographed dance routine, but a lot of the media around darts, or even things like golf, it's really talking about the individual athletes and who they are. And I think that's the direction powerlifting needs to go, because there's only so many deadlifts you can see and only so many squats and benches you can see.
Yeah, and you know, the way records are going these days, they're worth shit. Yeah, with all the different bars and stuff. But
give me your insights on that, because I know it's come up online. The AB series doesn't have records.
No.
And I know it's something you've spoken against. I completely echo the sentiments, just for anybody listening, because again, a lot of the people that will tune in now are going to be like, we want to find out the reasons Jay thinks the things he does.
They're just not interesting. Like, I couldn't give a shit what Usain Bolt ran the 100 meters in. I just want to see him beat the American dude, Gatlin or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. Now, who cares about records? Unless there was one federation with one set of rules, records mean shit. Like, who cares what? If you chip, you know, the only record that is remotely interesting was Eddie Hall's like 500 kilo deadlift, because, and it wasn't because his record, it's because it was always going back to the people. There was people chasing it. Who's going to do it? It's going to be Thor, is Eddie? Like, it was the journey behind it, not like, it could have been 400 kilo. It would have been as interesting. So records are not interesting. No one cares about records in powerlifting. And there's so many, they're like so diluted. There's more records in Ireland than powerlifters.
Yeah.
Which says it all.
I use this example to people. So you might, particularly a lot of the junior lifters care a lot about the records. And like, I want the, you know, junior squat, open squat, or whatever, junior squat record in the under 83s. And I'll go, great, who has it now? And they'll know who has it now. And I'll say, who had it before them?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. And who had it before them? I don't know. Because the record itself doesn't matter.
There's no history. There's no, once they're raised, they're gone.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, who won the 2018 ABS Pro? Barry
and Lena.
Yeah. So, I think that's a massive flaw of powerlifting, is the emphasis on records. And like, the American meets are the worst for promoting that, because they just throw money. Oh, John Hack's going to hit this record. Like, where they should be like finding battles, like who cares if John Hack goes in and breaks a record and he's got no competition? No one cares about that. So yeah, I detest records. I think they're bad for the sport, bad for spectators. Same as darts. Like, no one cares about averages in darts. They just want to see that fat guy beat that less fat guy because he's a dick and he celebrates like a prick.
They want to see the 9 darts.
Yeah. Or 9 dart, it's like, so yeah.
The cool moments, like,
I'm completely against records and that, I'm all about head to head. So for a competitive powerlifter, it's like, who can hold this shit together on the day, who can, hit depth, who can pick the best attempt, who's the best coaches on the day, the strategy. That's all I care about. It's like, who is the best on the day, not who's the strongest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we look at some of the athletes at the series, like look at like Fernando Arias, who just won Clash of Titans, like he had a great day out, and it didn't matter. Like, he is the first person to pull over 400 kilos on the platform, I believe.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter. It was who he was. He was this like rogue element that some people had written off, like, he's not going to be able to live up to the standards. And he jumped on the memes and he was like, and I took it personally,
Yeah, he bought into it.
Yeah.
And it was like, now he's, he'll always be remembered holding the belt.
Yeah.
Not because he pulled 400 first.
Do you see he put up the thing about he went to his coach, he came in, fucked the belt at him and said, I need a new training block.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like that's what I mean. Like he got it. He got into it. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have loved if he was more vocal in the press conference. But now in hindsight,
perfect.
Yeah, excellent, because no one knew what to make of him.
And Fernando was on to me for a long time. But like I get it all the time. People, can I come and? But Fernando messaged me a few times, and I was like, yeah, this guy's actually pretty good as well, and I just could tell he gets it. I've obviously spent a good bit of time with him now, and that guy is a problem.
Yeah, that's it. Like the series, I can't wait for the pro now.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that like I'm starting to look more forward to the ones I'm not lifting at because I get to watch them, and I think that's a really, really interesting component of it. Like, now I want to ask you a couple of things about like the people you work with, the athletes you've coached and things like that. Like, so abs and powerlifting in general, I think does a really great job of presenting like male and female athletes fairly evenly. Like, and I think a lot of other sports don't. I think you can say the same for CrossFit, presents both like genders quite equally. And you've actually been integral to some of the biggest male and female names, both in the Irish PF and at the series. Do you have any particular athletes that have been like the easiest to work with or hardest to work with, or have they all just kind of gotten on board with the system? Because I know Kim Murray, I had Kim on, she was very complimentary to your coaching style, so that really worked for her.
Honestly, not really. Like, I kind of...
Because like Jake sings your praises.
Yeah, I've got so many different characters and personalities. So part of being I think a coach is like finding what works for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So my same approach would say Jake is not going to probably work with Kim.
Right.
The way I talk to them and try and... Obviously, programming is just one part of it. Anyone can write a program. It's not rocket science. But like, I've lifters that have been with me. Noel, Louise, loads. Jake's been with me for a while. We've had a bit of a bad run, but I've had lifters stay with me for a long time. Don't really get many that leave. So it's just about managing personalities. Because at the end of the day, the hardest thing is to just keep coming back and doing it all again. So if you can keep someone interested in the sport, that's like, that's half the battle won. Figuring out what works for them is the kind of the easy part. If they're like buying into the process, that's a lot of the work done as well. You could, if I say this program's the best program in the world, you're guaranteed to put 5% on your total. You're going to be like, best program in the world, 5%, baby, and it could be anything, but because you're buying in, so it's just steps of like, I'm being honest with you, lifters. I've said in the past, I don't know what to do now. I might have to ask someone, or I'm fucking we'll just try something because this ain't working. Just being honest as well. If you pretend that you know everything, I think lifters will see through that eventually. And then just not being afraid to change your what's the word, methodology?
Yeah,
I can't
your
say it.
even your approach, methodology, your
That's
approach.
the one.
But like that, like I would completely agree, and I think that's really where it comes from. Like Adam Phillips, who you obviously work closely with now in the Irish PF, he has a phrase I've probably mentioned it a few times on the podcast. I really like. It's that powerlifting is easy and people are complicated. So
Yeah,
you're kind of having to, like, your fundamental methodology might work for most people, but it's about how you can filter that into them. And I think the key is trust with coach and athlete. Like, if they trust that you have their best intentions at heart, they'll usually get on a lot better and stick with you for the long haul. And I know you've mentioned this recently, particularly about Noel, is that powerlifting is a long game if you're going to get good at it.
Yeah, because again, like, the same thing is not always going to work. So you, as a coach, you need to, like, you can't be dogmatic with that approach. What I was doing like 10 years ago was like night and day to now. And what I'm going to be doing in 5 to 10 years is going to be not as different. But if it's not different to what I'm doing now, then I've not developed as a coach. So, the long-term game, 100%, if you stay in the sport, and then just, you have to change with the times. Like, there's certain things that are going to stop working with certain people. You're going to they're going to get older, they're going to recover less, all that shit. So you need to be constantly adapting your training with people, and just be transparent with them.
It was one of the questions. Like, I posted a question box on Instagram about people wanted to ask yourself and a couple of the other guests I was having specific things. So it's I think it's a good point to bring one of them up. People are interested in, like, where your training approach came from. What was the inspiration for the system? I know Ian Benson on recently, and he spoke about when he first sat down with you and looked at the program. He's like, there's a bit of conjugate in there. I can see a bit of Smolov in there.
Yeah.
And it was that he says he thinks that what kind of brought two together. Like, oh, you get a bit of this. You can see it, like, So where did it all start? What was the first approach for the abs, the infamous system?
Well, like, I didn't have my own training system as such. I literally read every, like, West Side Barbell and watched. I didn't read that much. I watched every video. So Louis Simmons, back then he was like the Joey Flex of powerlifting. Like, he had, West Side is West Side. I read everything, and then I implemented it to the T. It didn't really work with raw lifters, but that's not the training system. So that's because his training was designed for equip lifting. So, I recognized that. I didn't say, oh, that's shite. Everyone's box squat is bigger than their raw squat. I was like, okay, right, this works, and this works. These are really good. But we need to change that, which is, again, what West Side was about as well, and then just tried. I'd try other things with certain people. I'd like that bit, didn't like that bit. I throw that bit in, and it just became a giant soup.
Yeah.
And then, if 4 or 5 coaches are all saying the same thing, if they all say, right, the best tricep accessory is overhead extensions, then they're probably onto something. So, I spent a lot of money on seminars, just chatting to people, met so many, like, proper elite athletes, not the fucking Instagram bunnies now, like, proper, like, Dan Green, Ed Cohen, Dave Tate.
Had Lane Norton over.
Norton, like, so many, like, I just ask him. Like, I remember I went to Dan Green's seminar and I didn't really care about the seminar, but we trained after it, and I awkwardly went over to his platform doing my, like, 180 deadlifts. He's there, like, fucking repping out whatever, 300. And in between sets, I was asking him about West Side. I was like, so why, what do you feel are all the flaws in West Side? And I got more out of that little conversation because he wasn't in a group and he didn't want to talk negative about another training system. But because I asked him the questions, I got more out of that than I did the seminar. And that, actually, after that, I changed all the days. That's why we train on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday now, because of that. Those are Dan Green's main days, and I just, I moved it all around and took what he said and what we were doing, and so it's just learning. Like I said, just no, it's not an original thing that I came up. It's just all the different things I've taken off experience and, you know, seeing what works.
Yeah.
And just putting it into my own format. And, you know, there's no like, right, you have to squat 3 days a week at abs. You have to do this. That's not a system. That's just, you know, that's just parts of the system. Like Jake's going to squat less than Anna. But the fundamentals of the system is like, everyone needs to learn how to brace properly. Everyone's looking for optimal movement, you know? Everyone's going to do accessories because that is something everyone should do. Some might do more accessories than others. So that's the system as such.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's going to come in and not be on their phones when they're training to try and maintain focus and learn to train with each other. Some people don't like it. Some people do. Some people go and have a quick look in the bathroom. That's fine. Don't get caught, you know? But point is, when you're on the gym floor, like, you're focused. That's part of the system. So it's not, that's when people talk about the ab system, that it's all of these components, not just like how many days a week you squat.
I know you and I have talked about it before, and it was even that, like, you know, doing all even your main lifts, your big three, doing all of them to the standard, whether that's depth, lockouts, whatever it might be, pause duration, proper tempos, loading appropriately for what the task is, you know. That was the introduction then later of the Wheel of Misfortune, which has developed its own reputation within the Irish powerlifting scene.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, the wheel's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, it's a bit of levity whenever somebody does something retarded in training. Like,
it's just accountability, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think anytime I've seen anybody take exception, it's not with the wheel itself, it's what some of the punishments are.
Yeah, I would probably need to freshen them up as well now, because people are like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not cleaning the wheels.
Yeah, cleaning the wheels was one I've heard a bit of pushback on. But like, again, I think it's the comedy of it more so than anything, you know. It's because, to be honest, I've never seen it enforced incredibly hard, but it's the fear of, like, I'm not fucking missing a rep. I'm not spinning that wheel.
Even just spinning it in front of everyone is like,
it's a funny little moment. Yeah, like, it is. It's good. Like, and I think that's kind of the thing about abs, fundamentally, when we talk about the system. It's more than just a spreadsheet. It's more than just an approach. It's a group or a place where we facilitate, a little tribe, a little club that facilitates higher standards of powerlifting. We hold each other accountable. You have a good degree of camaraderie. Like, there's like different racks of people that tend to, like, we have good core groups of training partners. Like, everyone can train together, but you've got, like, your boys to hold you accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've had Ben on a couple of times, and Ben talks about that when he was training in abs full time, it would be like, did you boys, like, use your CPAPs? Did you make sure you've got enough water in? Are you doing your recovery? You aren't sitting up fucking watching Netflix, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everyone would hold each other, like, or like, even like coming in at 9 a.m, you have to be there at 9 a.m. or you get locked out. And I know, like, don't get me wrong, this is kind of like, this is the glass ceiling, the fourth wall breaking thing for people. If you wait around for a bit, if you're in a good mood, sometimes you let them in.
Yeah, but chances are you're not going to be late because you might not.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, you're just going to get locked out.
Or even, do you know, I love when somebody graduates from the 11 a.m. group and they get into the 9 a.m. and they've earned something. They've earned, you know, an hour less in bed, but they've earned the right to be there.
Yeah, no, that's probably my favorite component of the club is the like Zeta and Aoife all kind of started there the other day at 9 a.m. Like, Zeta's been trying for years. She was in the old gym, you know.
Yeah, so, I remember. Yeah,
I can just see that, you know, what it means to them to, like, graduate to that group. You know, and it is a strong group. Like,
100%.
There's no other group in Europe with that depth every Sunday morning. No one wants to get out of bed 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning. It's a special, it's cool. It's
a massive degree of accountability to have to, like, you know, your Sunday, it's early, you're in a nice warm bed, and you have to get up and come across the fucking fingless now for 9 a.m. to squat with all these big smelly bastards. But it is brilliant that's what it is. And I think it's demonstrating how the club performs. This is the 5th Open Nationals where ABS has become club champions again. Yeah. And you did mention it yourself, the competition gets better every year. So all the other clubs are really up in their game, which is brilliant for the country, but still come out on top.
Yeah, like, it's not like we just go in and win easy. It's like, it's a training camp. They've become, the last couple of nationals has become training camps. Like, you've seen it, like, right, 10 weeks out, everyone who's doing nationals is in. This is your rack. We've got to fight for every point, you know?
Yeah.
Because everyone wants, it's not even just us against another gym now. Everyone wants to beat us in every position because we're essentially against the whole IPF because they all want to beat us. They all want to see that disappointment on my face and the lad's face, which is great, you know. That's what competition's about.
It's what drives rivalries. It's good.
Yeah.
Rivalries and competition are good for the sport.
And it's good for powerlifting in Ireland in general. There's absolutely no way the Irish PF would be as competitive internationally if the other clubs and coaches just kind of gave up. So they all want, you know, I'm good friends with them all, but they all want to kick our asses. So,
good. Keep trying.
Feelings mutual.
Yeah. Let them keep trying. But that brings me to like a bit of a bigger point. So with abs and the standards that's set and that we hold everybody to and giving people something to aspire towards, and then even with your history then in the military, your interest in historical warfare and things like that, do you think a lot of this comes from like a sense of like needing to provide like a purpose or a meaning or something harder to work towards? This is kind of getting a bit philosophical for you now, but I kind of want to get into some of that with you.
Yeah, I think it's like, if you haven't got a purpose, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I know it's only powerlifting, but it's still something to get up every day and try and be a little bit better at. Whether that's running comps, building a team, it gives you a reason to like do something, you know, have a goal. So yeah, definitely. It is similar in many ways, you know, like going back to earlier on, like having just that one task to focus on. So like going back to like when I was deployed, it's like the one task you have is like being a good soldier. It's like there are a lot of similarities. So the one task you have when you say, you know, you join abs is to try and be the best you can be. You might not win nationals or qualify for nationals, but you're gonna be the best you can be. I think we do kind of bring that out of people, that environment, and just all the stupid little rules that are there. They're there because they're not there because I like to have stupid rules. I can't stand them because I have to enforce them, and they get sometimes they get a bit tiring and you're not in the mood. But they're there to try and make people the best they can. So, so there are a lot of similarities. Going back to your question.
I can see it because this is a question that comes up. I have it with some of my own lifters, some of my own athletes. And it's, if you look at, let's say they train for 6 months for a competition and, you know, there's other variables. Maybe the competition doesn't go exactly to plan. It's like, right, but you've still got that 6 months of work. You're still a better athlete now than you were 6 months ago. You're still a much more regimented and dialed in person and athlete than you were 6 months ago because you followed these rules, you followed these standards, you adhere to the plan. Sure, sometimes shit goes wrong on meet days. You get sick.
Happens.
The platform doesn't run exactly the way you want. We messed up maybe a nutrition protocol, a rehydration protocol, maybe we just didn't peak exactly right. You know, things can happen, but you're still, because you adhere to the rules, because you adhere to this standard or were this regimented, this rigid, you actually end up a lot better for it.
Yeah. I think the first thing you said, athlete, what we do in abs is you actually become athletes. So you're not just hobby lifters, you're athletes. I feel like you're treated like athletes. Most of them got nutritionists. We've got physios. You've got rules. You've got to be here at certain times, especially as you get better. You've got to work in with people. You can't be dropping your intensity in training. You have to actually stay with people. So you do become an athlete. Whereas when you train in a commercial gym, it's just you're going to the gym to lift some weights, and if you have a good day, you have a good day. You know, so I feel that's probably the biggest difference. Is like you feel like you're part of a club, a team. You've got to do well for the team. You're an athlete. You know, you are basically like a semi-professional athlete without any money.
Well, that's powerlifting. You know, it's the sport for people whose parents didn't love them enough.
Yeah,
you know, CrossFit's for the functional families. But that's even more recently, just from my own bit of lived experience with this. The last couple of Sundays, I've been training on the same rack as Dav. So having another one of the abs coaches there, just for an objective view of, should I push this more? Should I dial it back? Should I maybe leave it there? Like, that's just having somebody external to hold you accountable. Because a lot of the time people can get blinded by how they feel or their emotions or, oh, I'm not arsed today. It's like, no, come on, do your set. Or like, people want to eagle, oh, fuck it, well, I take that for a single. No, stay on plan, Things like that. Having somebody to hold you accountable is massive. And being able to offload some of that mental bandwidth. One of the great things about abs is we do have this core group of really good coaches and then extremely advanced athletes. And everyone is trying to help each other for the better of the club to improve. And
it's like a colony, bee colony.
Yeah,
I was watching bee stuff lately. So everyone wants the best for everyone else, So, and again, if you're training with the same people all the time, they're gonna, as long as you give them the tools to recognize things like you just said, you're gonna get something from it. Like having, like, say, Dav, maybe reassure you, oh no, I actually moved all right, or nah, leave it at that, or don't go up 5, just go up 2.5. That's like, that can make or break your peak or something, So, we are lucky to have that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And actually, just you mentioned, right? This is one thing I've gotten a lot of out of abs. Even just you and I, if we've been chatting in the office or whatever, because you mentioned you're looking at bee stuff online.
Yeah.
You showed me a YouTube channel that has all these, like, your man plays out the historical wars. Yeah. Like, so naturally, a massive amount of your time goes into powerlifting, but I assume that's some of the things you're like.
Yeah, I love history.
Yeah.
I love just general random stuff, but I really love history, especially like military history and empires and stuff like that. Especially Romans and World War II.
Yeah.
Like the Roman Empire, I'm kind of fascinated, and then World War II period as well. Like, primarily.
Yeah, that's probably some of the things that have gotten you hot water in the past.
Yeah.
But I suppose that speaks to when you're somebody who has an in-depth knowledge of a specific topic, when people's knowledge is more surface level, you can't really even have a conversation because... it's tough. Yeah.
It's hard, but I'm a big believer in, like, you need to know history. You need to learn from the past, not to make the same mistakes. So, but like, history's so interesting. You learn so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it helps history in general helps dictate where we go later on and behavior. And I know that's one thing, even then looking back at some of the ab standards, because a question I had gotten in for you is like, what could get somebody banned from abs or banned from the series or kicked out or whatever. And I know a massive thing for you is how you conduct yourself in general, but like online when it comes to like referee standards and things like that. Because we've had it in the past. Like I know at like Irish Nationals in 2020, there was like somebody had a confrontation with the referees over a deadlift. And I can't remember I was only new enough on the scene there. I wasn't in the Irish PF at the time, but I remember reading it online. And I completely agree with you with that. Like, it's one thing to disagree with a decision. It's another thing to get emotional, hostile, or to put it on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a problem to have a conversation at the back and say what's going on.
Yeah, everyone can like disagree with stuff. So, but just being, don't, like for example, criticizing refs publicly, like they give up their free time. Just don't do it. Just volunteers. Just be better, man. If you're getting picked up by refs, unless it's like literally a bullshit call where they're like deliberately out to get you, which is never gonna happen.
Would never see that here.
I've never seen it happen. Then no, just let's disagree about it at the back. But like, you can't go back and change it. So I'd prefer the mentality of like, right, that's my fault as a coach for you getting a red light. It's your fault as an athlete for you getting a red light. Was it a harsh call? Probably. Who knows? Let's move on, get over it. So I like to keep stuff in-house like that. Because, I don't think anyone wins when you air your dirty laundry. And then just, you can pick on someone as much as you want, but like there is a line where there is no bullying. I was bullied in school when I was younger, and I've been bullied quite a lot. And I can't stand bullies. So, but, there is a fine line with just banter. You do need strong characters like the Roy Keanes. But that same person needs to also be your worst, your harsh critic, but like they need a bit, they'll help you if you need it. So that's where you can kind of get away with it. And then obviously, if anyone put hands on someone in the gym, like that never happened, but they gone. Doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah.
And we've lost some big names over the last 10 years,
Yeah.
Pretty much lost all, our best lifter at some point. It's life,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
happens.
that's it. Like I know you've said it in the past. We've had these things happen at the time. I've been here about 4.5 years, and it's been that it's like no one is bigger than the club, and no one is too good for the sport. And I really like that, because the point is that regardless, people are going to have differences. It's the nature of people, or they're not going to agree with things. I've had it with some of my lifters where they didn't got red light for something they didn't agree with. It's like, look, if you come at them for the red lights, you may as well fuck out all the white lights they've given you, because you're calling their judgment into account here. And I say, like I said, maybe it's your fault for not hitting the standard on the day to what they wanted. Maybe it's my fault as a coach for not preparing you adequately for the day. But we just take the calls as they come. Yeah. And in all things, like, it's, you might not necessarily agree with a choice made at a competition, or a coach has made, or a club has made, but doesn't mean you need to. It's one of those things with social media, isn't it? It's like, it's been great for the growth of things like the sport and interconnectivity and connecting us all, but like that, some people maybe need to have their phones taken off them.
Encourages whining, and like people get emotional as well. Like at the same time, like people put a lot of time and effort into this powerlifting with no financial reward. So that 2-to-1 decision can absolutely like ruin you for a fucking week, That's 6 months of work you put in just because someone didn't give you a 50-50. So like, I do get it, but like, this,
look at the bigger picture.
Yeah. I'd like to, as the club, I just wouldn't like to have an image of like being moany cunts. Like, we just get on with it. Yep. Fucking do better.
I think that's true though. And do you know what I will say that for Ireland in general? I think whenever, like, even nationals this year in the Radisson, everyone came together and had a great time.
Yeah,
it was a great weekend. Like,
yeah, like even the jury thing. There was a lot of overturned lifts, and some went our way, some didn't go our way. People got on with it. So I think, as a whole, Ireland has a good, pretty strong mentality like that. You see some of the other countries with more kind of influences, they're like, it's like, man, go away. Go away.
Yeah.
Get a new sport.
That's all sports, so at some stage it gets a little political, So, but like, I love that we here, I think fundamentally, because it's still young, like the Irish PF is still young, AB Series is still young, the people that are involved in either one do just want to see things grow and just get better, provide more opportunities for people to lift, like we've talked about. I know you did an episode of Alexander Clark at the British Strength magazine. I did a bit of research before I had you on, and he was talking about, like, you were talking about the first AB Series you sold tickets for. I actually think it was 45 quid, because I was in it.
45.
For the first. It was March.
It's under 50 anyway.
It was March 2019. And I remember I bought a ticket about 3 or 4 weeks out, and the tickets had been on sale since January, and there were still tickets. Whereas now they sell out so quick.
Yeah.
It's shocking. So we can't even meet the demand of how many people want to be in powerlifting now, which is brilliant.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So that's like obviously something like the AB Series, the Irish PF need to look at going into 2024. What more can we do to provide more platforms for the lifters?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one.
Yeah.
I actually don't I don't know. I actually don't know, because I'm at capacity with the
calendar stacked.
Competitions. It's like close to burnout. So I actually don't know. I've got like some cool ideas. I was only chatting to Adam. I was like, I went to the Apex in Vegas. I went to the Apex, but the PRSI, like, imagine building a powerlifting center of like excellence in Dublin, where it's like got a purpose-built venue, training facility. It's like, there's no club. It's just like, this is Irish Powerlifting's performance center. And like, you could run comps all the time then.
Yeah.
That would probably be there. And like, anyone who's involved with powerlifting is like, trains there. So it's all like integrated into like memberships and stuff. So I think that would be the only way we could probably bring it to a new level. But that's just pipe dream.
Or a nice big sponsor now if anybody's listening.
Yeah, big sponsor would be cool. But yeah, it's like I don't know how else you're gonna keep like getting more comps in, because it's like everyone, like the Irish PF is like burnt out, the committee.
Yeah,
they're
doing so much. Yeah,
it's just nonstop. And then obviously the AB series is, I don't want to do too many more comps because I don't want to dilute the product. So, and then people, the other Feds are doing okay as well, but like obviously cream rises to the top. So people want to do certain competitions. So yeah, I don't know where it'll go.
We'll see when we'll have you on again in a couple of months and we'll ask you this question again. But then I'm gonna not keep you too much longer. But I do have one or two more questions for you. So you mentioned like some of these experiences you've had traveling to Vegas. I know you've been to see Johnny Walker fight a couple of times. Yeah. Do you think then from actually getting that intimate close up and you've gotten to see what the UFC is like in person, you've been in the environment, has that like really expanded your idea for what the series can be and what powerlifting can be?
Yeah, so much. Like, where did I go? I went out to Vegas and I can't remember what fight it was. Don't know. Anyway, I went out to Vegas and I spent 2 weeks out there with Johnny. I got to see everything, every single thing from the UFC point of view, how it was run. And yeah, I am ripping that off big time. Now I brought loads of things back to the series. You've probably seen the changes, and it was really motivating because obviously they're a multi-billion-dollar organization, but I could recognize lots of things that are really easy to implement into my own product, and they were kind of a small gig at the start, so. Yeah, it was really good. I really got to. It was like a bit, obviously I was there for Johnny to be his friend and got to corner with him and stuff. But like I also learned so much from a meat director point of view. Like I just need more money to
realize the vision. Yeah. So, like, I suppose then the next big step forward for the series, because it's like I said, we talked yesterday, just that one picture of Dave Richardson coming out for a deadlift and the fires behind it. It looks like a Rammstein gig. Yeah. It looks amazing. So, realistically, the only real big, massive, like the venue gets better and better and better every time. No one will deny it. I know you've got big things in mind for the pro with the elevated tables, with the bottle of champagne. For the exclusivity for the fine folks that want to indulge. Yeah. But I suppose then ultimately it's probably going to have to be looking at bigger venues, more bigger advertising. So ultimately we'll start to come down. Like your vision is only restricted by your budget at the moment. Yeah,
pretty much.
That's a cool place to be though.
It's cool but frustrating because I'm like, look at Sheffield, right?
Yeah.
$1 million company. They filled out an arena, or pretty much filled it out. I was like, if I was watching it, I was like, if I had a fraction of that money, I could do better. Well, and that's not a dig at Sheffield. They did brilliant. Like
they did,
but there was so much. There's so many holes I could see.
Yeah,
that could make that better. But I'm sure they were going to get there. That was for their first meet. That was like spectacular.
Well, that's the big thing. If we look at what Sheffield presented, and that's the first one, that now might open the door for more people that are interested in, working with this new resurgence of this insurgence of this sport. Like it's still a new thing. There's more eyes coming to it. Like we had like 5,500 people watching Clash on the KiloCast stream, like, which is a massive number for a club in the middle of Finglas. And this was only the 12th one we've done technically. So. And the first Clash, so it's amazing, So I think it's really about the long game now for the next little while with it.
100%. I'm looking like 10, 20 years down the line
when we're at AB 70.
Yeah, that's it. Because
when Jesse's running it,
Jesse will be running it. Yeah, fucking. But no, I'm not. I'm in it for the long haul now. So I'm kind of resigned to the fact that it's just gonna have to be built around a long term strategy. I'm really happy where it is now. It's really fun at the minute, and it is the strongest platform in Europe. So 100%. It may not be the biggest, event because Sheffield was a bigger event, but it's the strongest platform in Europe, numbers wise, standard wise. So there's definitely a much bigger product there. All the top lifters are there. They're all in one place, which has been lacking in untested powerlifting forever. So that's like the biggest problem kind of solved. So yeah, it's gonna grow. It's gonna be big. I'm 100% like that is where I want to be in 10 years.
Yeah, there's actually one thing I wanted to mention, and I'll mention it now before I forget, and then I'll move on. But there was always this point asked, like if people are asking about, oh, you lifted the series, it's untested, you're competing against people on gear or whatever, right? But somebody actually made the point to me recently about the advantage of an untested meets. So for anyone listening, when you compete in the IPF or Irish PF, you are subject to WADA test protocol, and there's certain substances that are banned. Some of the banned substances people use to live, basically. Yeah. So they have to get a TUE or therapeutic use exemption. These are like 150 quid a go or something.
Yeah.
So one of the other lifters I know mentioned that like the series actually presented them with the opportunity to lift and not have to worry about a TUE. Yeah. And for their medication, it's literally like a lot of it's like in this particular person's case, like a cognitive function, but people have like cardiac function, asthma medicine. A lot of these things are on the banned list. Now I don't want to get into the politics of why they're there, but I suppose that's another thing people could look at when it comes to competing at the series. It's not necessarily just for the big fucking juice heads like Jake and Eamon. It also presents the opportunity for people that might be using medications that they're dependent on to live a functional life, but not have to worry about paying an extra 150 quid just to lift.
Yeah, it really is a platform for everyone. Yeah. And I'd say about 95% of the 90% of the entry would pass the test.
Oh, I'd say more.
Probably more. So it's not even like this, the top 1%.
Yeah. I'd say it's a very small number of the guys that are at the very, very top of the pro. And maybe some of the pro-am that are like very transparent that they compete at untested meets anyway. So they're not hiding it. But I would like the majority of the lifters we present, I'd say are still, natural.
100%.
Alcoholics probably.
Do a lot of other things. But
recreationally. But lunatics, but all natural on the performance enhancing side, But the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I wanted people to know that is one of the other advantages to having these untested meets. It's not just, you're at this competitive disadvantage as a natural lifter. The likelihood is you're going to be competing against people that are also in your cohort. But if you do have one of those medical dependencies, that's not something you have to consider coming into this, which is huge.
Yeah, just you focus on your lifting. Yeah. And like the reality is, if you are good enough, if you get to the level where because we're not trying to compete with the IPF. If you're at a level where you can go international IPF or stay on the Pro-Am, you're going to have that choice to make. So it's not like you have to stay and go down a certain pathway. The chances are that if you hit a certain standard, you can go IPF, if you don't want to go down that road. So I think it acts a bit of a filter as well in that respect.
For sure. I think it depends what you want out of powerlifting as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying lifting in the Irish PF at the moment, but like I'll never have more fun than I have at an ab series.
Yeah.
Just for the nature of what it is. So the last thing I really want to talk to, and this is more like, again, we're kind of coming away from powerlifting, coming away from, meet director Jay, president of the IPF Jay, head coach Jay, and like looking more like, so I mentioned earlier on your son Jesse, not Jesse Moore, in case anyone got confused. Jesse Moore's not going to run the series. I mean, Jay's little curly.
You never know.
Blonde. Yeah, well, I mean, who knows where the future goes. So, Jesse's either going to be running the ab series in prison or have run away. Yeah. But I've noticed this over the whole time I've trained in abs. Jesse is like a very young kid. He's been around the whole time, and he's such a great young kid. Like he interacts with people really well. He's so social. He does lots of things. He's comfortable with everybody. I've seen like on your Instagram, he's been out like he's been in little kayaks going up the Liffey. He's too good at football for his age. He's done combat sports. He's gone to the UFC. He's best mates with Johnny Walker. Yeah. He was at the races the other day.
Together.
They play Fortnite together. He collected his winnings at the races the other day. He's living a good life. I know this is something you and I share. You grew up without a dad.
Yeah.
Does that play a part in the type of person you want to be in Jesse's life?
Yeah, 100%. So I had my grandfather, who kind of like, I grew up in pubs and stuff with him for the majority of it. So he just brought me everywhere and was real forward with like me. I used to spend the night down by the Gambler showing people how to win money and get a cut. Would cost them money, but he didn't mind because it was like, socializing and
wheeling dealing.
Yeah, it's like learning life, or just go everywhere with him. Like everywhere we went, it was like, I was involved in it. I'd have to help. So that's kind of what I try and do with Jesse, So I just constantly like make him out of his comfort zone, so he isn't socially awkward. So I make him go and ask for something in a shop rather than me asking, and he's like cowering behind me. So, but yeah, it definitely is a factor, because obviously it's like you still kind of feel it, you still always have that like, why wasn't I good enough bullshit. So yeah, you definitely overcompensate with. I am anyway with him, and he's just a cool kid as well.
He is.
He's like my best friend.
Yeah. It's very funny because he calls you Jay.
Yeah, he does it to annoy me as well. So he'll call me Jay. When he wants something, he calls me Dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I could just hang out with him for an hour, no problem. Or it's quite enjoyable. So I actually coach his football team now as well. Under 10, under 11s, Monday and Wednesday, which is really fun. I was only chatting about this yesterday, so it's actually like a break away from powerlifting, and it like gives me some time, like structured time with him. It's like on those days, at those times, it's like obviously I'm coaching the other kids as well, but it's like it's good to just put time aside and hopefully remember that when he grows up.
Well, for sure. Like, I mean, he's always around the gym. He's always chatting to the lads. I know at the series you've used him to guilt people into buying things. He goes around with a bin bag cleaning up. And like I've mentioned, he's interacted with people I've brought to the venue and all. They're just, he's such a good kid, and it always stood out to me. And it's only then when I realized, like, we talked a little bit about that, and I know, like, as you said, your dad wasn't around growing up, neither was mine, and I was wondering was that part of it. You did mention that your granddad kind of filled that role, and he kind of encouraged you to, take up, socialize, push it into those scenarios, make you a little uncomfortable, but ultimately for your own benefit. That's what socializing fundamentally is. And I think it's paid dividends. Do you think part of that is then why you gravitated towards things like the military, to be surrounded by like other dudes? And like, because I know for me, right, like I grew up with just my mom, and then I started pro wrestling, and essentially my like rites of passage into like becoming a young man when I was like 15, 16, 17, 18 was hanging around with all these fucking crazy mad bastards, slamming each other like on a canvas all over Ireland. And we flew the Americans in, the Brits in, and you'd just be up and down the road with these lads, listening to stories, them having you do mad things, like playing practical jokes on people. And it was that kind of like helped mature me into being like a man. And I was curious as to, do you think that might have been part of what the draw of the military was?
Yeah, it was definite. Well, my granddad was in the Welsh Guards, so he'd always tell me stories, and had his pictures around, and he was in Berlin and stuff during the Cold War. So it's like I always wanted to like kind of follow his footsteps and kind of make him proud, and he was like a man's man in that respect. So yeah, it was definitely, and because I moved around a lot, so I always felt, it's weird. I don't know, I always felt a bit like of a lone wolf or whatever, or a bit lost sometimes, because I was just bouncing back and forth, like places to live. So it was kind of, just gave me something to be part of, and like my granddad was really proud of, always used to tell people, oh, James, because my real name's James. He's like, James is in the army, and like, I kind of enjoyed it, So it's definitely a big factor. And he was like a massive role model in like, you know, stopping me going down the wrong path as well. It was definitely at a crossroads when I was younger, which way I was gonna go. So his kind of direction helped me.
You've turned out all right.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
Yeah,
could have been worse.
I don't think it can be understated. I think ABS lends that to a lot of younger lads now. You know, it gives them that degree of structure and discipline, and you're working within these parameters, and it keeps them on the straight and narrow. And I think that's a thing for a lot of young lads. Like, you know, if you don't know where to go or what to do or who to talk to or whose lead to follow, you can go down bad paths because you're just looking to fit in somewhere.
Yeah, I'd like to think that it offers that. I see, you know, we've loads of young lads that have been there a while, and like there's loads that have come and gone. But I use Jordan for an example because, you know, he's a tornado. But like, I feel I always had a bit of a soft spot for Jordo because he was such a young lad when he came in, and he's, you know, we went through ABS. So I feel like ABS did give him something, you know, and now he's coaching people, and he'll always be Jordo. But like,
he's a lunatic, but he's doing well.
Yeah. You know, and that's you know, I feel like the club definitely gave him something to be part of, and like the young lads and girls have like taken things from it. So if anything, that's a good thing, you know.
100%. Like, even I think of like Jamie O'Brien.
Yeah, I was going to say Jamie as well. Yeah,
just didn't want to mention his name. But like, for example, like, I mean, that I would imagine that being a part of powerlifting has been huge for him, and a lot of the other junior lifters, the academy lifters. I know, like Evan Wallace. Yeah, who I coach, like he's come on leaps and bounds. Like he's always been quite interpersonal, but he's such a much more confident and capable person now because he's thrown, like, look, he's one of the highlights whenever he comes out in the series because he's just so charismatic on the platform, you know. So I think it does, powerlifting in general, but also the way we are doing things at ABS, I think it does provide that now. And as you said, it's a little bit of a strange world we live in. It's a bit soft sometimes. People can get a bit insulated. It can be a bit too comfortable. So we're putting ourselves in this voluntary hardship to, you know,
counter it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jamie's a great example. When he started, he used to wear his hair over his eyes, if you remember, and would never look someone in the eye, never talk. Now you can't shut him up.
Yeah, now you want to shut the fuck up.
Now you can't shut him up. He's
talking
a different
about
kid.
His accessories.
Yeah, accessories.
Yeah. In fairness to him, he has gotten quite strong and he's put on a bit of muscle. Like he has genuinely made good progress. As of a lot of the young guys there, they've you know, some of them are coming in, they're quiet, they're grinding in the background, but then you see them after a couple of months coming out of their shells a little bit. Because ABS has that reputation of being like intimidating or tough. And you see some of them, they're in it long enough and then they're like up tickling fucking Jake, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's, you know, and like you said, the lads, you look over, it's like, where did that extra red plate come from? You know, I've just been training in the corner for 6 months on my own. But it's a good, I didn't really think of it like that either for the young ones, because sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it, but that's kind of cool.
100%. And like, that's what I mean. That's why I wanted to finish on that, because ultimately, I know there's lots of moving parts, there's lots of people involved, but it does kind of boil down to that you've built and provided this for people. So for better or worse, even if you are, I know it's been said you're a good person, but a bit of a prick, you know? So well done to you, and thank you for providing us with ABS.
No worries. Cheers.
Thanks for coming on the Iron Mindset.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Good man.